Not all of us are as happy as Ken.
I had the honor to be the team leader for the group study Change to Brazil, and I really had an outstanding team, as you guys are going to see soon, because what I'm going to do, I'm going to introduce a little bit, and then I'll pass the microphone, and I will not do anything. So, the way we did that in Brazil was we had a PowerPoint presentation in Portuguese in the background, and the team did the program in English. However, they did their introductions in Portuguese. And I was amazed, really amazed and very proud and I can't tell you how happy those guys have made me on the time I've been in Brazil. So with that, I will be moving the computer, so if Richard will let me touch his computer, I'll be passing that along. GSE Group Study Exchange was formed in 1965, and it was an exchange between a district in California and a district in Japan. That's how it started. Up to last year, it was funded by Rotary International, by the Rotary Foundation. That has changed with the new vision plan. GSE now is a responsibility of the districts. So some districts are still doing that, some districts are going to go towards the volunteer training teams. I am a big fan from Group Study Exchange. I hope we do it again, because I see the advantage from the people we met there, knowing a little bit from us, from what those guys saw there, from the contacts and the friendships they have made, that I hope they will talk a little bit about the people they are still talking to. So we had a blast. And with that, Ken?
Should we click to the next slide?
Mm-hmm.
We start with introductions or... Okay.
I'll give you a little bit of an overview of the area that we were in Brazil, and then the three of us will introduce ourselves and jump right in. We were actually down in the state of Santa Catarina, which is down in the south of the country. Chris, thank you. And it was District 4740. Santa Catarina is one of the states in Brazil that has the highest levels of education, income, public health, and the lowest rates of illiteracy and poverty. So we were very lucky in that we got to see a different area of the country aside from Sao Paulo or Rio, or the areas of Brazil that we may have been familiar with before going. As you can see, we were constantly on the move. This is the area that we were in each of the cities that we visited. I think all in it was about 17 different cities over the course of a month. And then you can see over letter P is actually Iguazu Falls, which we did our final weekend when we were there. The Chapaco Rotary Club rented a 45-passenger bus, and we did an overnight bus trip with about 35 members of their club. Now we will do, we're going to give you guys a taste of how we started our presentations in Brazil and introduce ourselves in Portuguese.
All right. Before I do that, I just want to say my name is Christopher Patterson. I was actually sponsored by the Mecklenburg South Rotary Club. So prior to me going with GSE, I knew 3 words of Portuguese. So now this should be interesting. I'm a little rusty, but here we go. Hello, how are you doing today? Come on now, wake up. How are you doing? Good. All right, here we go. Muito obrigado por nos receber hoje. Meu nome é Christopher Patterson. Sou residente de Cincinnati, Ohio, e agora moro na cidade de Charlotte, na Carolina do Norte. Eu trabalho para o Banco Wells Fargo, onde dê suportes para agentes, investidores e analiso produtos de investimentos como obrigações, ações e financiamento. Eu gosto de ouvir música, especialmente gospel e jazz. Gosto de dançar, viajar, ver filmes estrangeiros, esportes aquáticos e ler. That's all I got. All right. Next up, Emily. Emily is not here today, unfortunately, but Emily was a Herbalife representative. She deals with health and wellness and fitness as well. She was a firecracker, to say the least. And everyone in our group brought a different element, their own special uniqueness to the group. So it was great to be with these 4 other ladies, me being the only male. So that was interesting for 30 days. All right, next up, we have Miss Pace.
Hi everyone, I'm Erin, and my sponsor club was Charlotte South. They needed the South Park area. I'm gonna give this a shot. It gets harder and harder, so it's nice to have opportunities like this to practice Portuguese a little bit. Estou muito feliz em estar aqui. Meu nome é Erin Pace e trabalho em Wells Fargo, onde dou suporte a banqueiros sobre regras em finanças públicas. Em meu tempo livre, gosto de ler, brincar com meu cachorro, fazer yoga, visitar amigas e recentemente pulei de paraquedas. That's all I got.
Meu nome é Bernhardt e estou muito feliz por poder conhecer vocês. Sou originalmente de Atlanta, Georgia, onde ficam Coca-Cola e CNN. Hoje moro em Charlotte, na Carolina do Norte. E gosto muito de experimentar novas comidas e bebidas, passar tempo com meu noivo e amigos, e gosto muito de viajar a outros países. Brasil é o número 45, que já viajei. Em minha profissão, trabalho em marketing e propaganda para o Banco da América, dos maiores bancos nos Estados Unidos. Obrigada. I know we have a limited amount of time, so we are going to try to get through these pictures pretty quickly. We've told Brad to give us the hook if we start talking too much, but we had a wonderful time, and we got the hook, guys, thanks. We had a really great time, and I really want to thank you all for sponsoring me with the opportunity to go to this. So, as you can see, here is we did a lot of eating while we were there, a lot of eating. And so we've got some of our favorite foods that we wanted to share with you. You might be familiar with churrasco. It's what Chima does in Uptown, or Amor do Brazil down in Pineville. Matthews, not Pineville. I don't live down there, they're the same to me. But every home that we stayed in actually had one of these stoves built into their home, whether it was a home or an apartment, which we found that really interesting. Our favorite dessert during the time, brigadeiros down at the bottom. We lived on these. They're basically made with chocolate powder, condensed milk, and butter. They're amazing. Thanks, Dorothy. Buffets were very typical down there. Almost every restaurant or club meeting that we went to, it was a buffet-style meal. And whereas we consider this a buffet, they were outlandish. Some of the buffets we went to had 4 different types of pasta. You had your rice and your beans. You had potato salad. You had churrasco usually as part of the buffet. So you can see we would sit down with huge plates full. Down in the bottom left, the chimarrão, that is tea typical of the country and the region that we were in. They make it in the morning, and then it sort of sits there all day. They continue to pour water into the tea leaves and drink and pass it around the room in the meetings throughout the day. It can be served hot or cold. And then caipirinha, on the far right. This was, it is basically the national drink of Brazil. We became acquainted with it very early and then very frequently throughout our month.
It's alcoholic.
And then the non-alcoholic beverage you can see on the left, the cafezinho, is just a little tiny coffee. We would, in most of the cities that we went to, do meetings with the town mayor. Unfortunately, these meetings tended to fall after a large buffet lunch. So the cafezinho became our friend, either to consume after lunch or in the mayor's office.
Okay. While we were down in Brazil, we danced a lot. Part of their culture is to dance. So throughout our 17 cities tour, we did a lot of dancing with fellow Rotarians and their families. Here are just some of the pictures of some of the places that we went to. This is one of the nights that we actually went out at a club. One of the Rotarians' mother actually owned the club in Joaçaba. So this is us here actually dancing. That's me dancing at the Rotary Club function before we went to the club. All right, next up, we just have more pictures of us dancing, guys acting silly, things like that. We went from the older generation to even a young generation. This is me dancing with a 3-year-old girl. She was the cutest thing I've ever seen. And what was that? Caçador. All right, and more dancing. And next up, we have from Helmets to Herons.
Sure. So, the experience was kind of threefold. We did industry site tours, which is what most of these couple of slides are about. So we titled it Helmets to Hairnets because that's what was involved in a lot of our tours. We also had the cultural immersion component and then community service. Here, just highlighting a couple of our stops. Superfruit was an ice cream factory, 2 thumbs up. We had a fantastic time walking around and tasting things. Here we suited up as firemen. There the fire stations are run by the military, and my host was actually the head of the fire station, lived on military housing just behind the station. Our trip to Falls de Iguazu was amazing, just the birds and the, just nature and being completely amazed and astounded. Oh, Snow Valley, yeah. Those that had their brave pants on, not necessarily this lady, but everyone else went ziplining in Snow Valley. It was a fantastic experience, and I cheered them on and took pictures.
And she did skydiving. She wouldn't zip line.
I know, it seems funny, but one major thrilling experience at a time, or per year maybe, I don't know. But that in Snow Valley, that area where they went ziplining was one of the more southern cities that we saw, and that they're known to be one of the very few where it snows, actually. And they've experienced some snow this winter. We've got some more pictures of Superfruit. Pioneero was one of the industry sites that we took a tour of an establishment that recycles car batteries. That was pretty interesting. You can see that Emily's trying to lift some lead that's used to go into, I think that one bar builds 6 batteries. What we can say is that our days were thoroughly thought through and planned by the Rotarians. They took us under their wing. They gave us great behind-the-scenes tours. We felt very special and really learned a lot. Art?
We encountered art in everyday activities. It was in corporate office buildings. It was in the clubs where we met for our presentations. It was in wineries, and in one of our third city that we visited actually was called Tres Etilhas, which is a town that has Austrian heritage. And we got to go to an artist's workshop in that town. You can see the picture in the upper right-hand corner. That was actually carved out of wood and was probably maybe 1.5 feet square. So not huge, but the level of detail and craftsmanship that he was able to impart was outstanding.
All right. Next up, one of the things that we realized while we were on our 17-city tour is that we were being treated somewhat like rock stars. Throughout our tour of Brazil in the state of Santa Catarina, we actually were on live TV. We were on live radio that broadcast to about 40 different cities. We were in 5 newspapers and 6 newspapers. So throughout, it was, as soon as we hopped out of the van, we were being interviewed by somebody. And it was a great experience. It gave us a lot of exposure to the Brazilian culture, to the people. These were definitely opportunities where we had kind of grown up on our Portuguese. They would ask us questions in Portuguese, and some of us would just sit there like, what are you saying? So we would, thankfully, Nora she's from Brazil. I don't know if she actually mentioned that, but she's a native Brazilian. So she was able to translate Portuguese for us and help us out a lot throughout this process. But it was very fun. I'm sorry?
We had a lot of Nora, help.
Yes, we had a lot of those.
We had by the middle of the trip, they said my English was going like that and my Portuguese was going like that.
Pretty much. But yes, we had a lot of fun. This is one of the pictures where Nora was getting interviewed by radio and also by newspaper at the same time. And this right here was our live TV, our live TV experience in Chapaco, where we were on kind of like their daytime programming.
And I would like to point out that we did surprise the presenter there, because what he would do, he would ask the question and they would say in English and I would translate. So he would be going back and forth. So he turned around to do to present themselves, and he started with Erin. And she did her presentation in Portuguese. And he turned around and came to me, and I said, wow, she did that in Portuguese. Oh.
But it wasn't all just hanging around. This is Karen in Snow Valley zip lining, striking a pose.
That took about 3 seconds.
So, of course, one of the things that we were so pleased about was, getting the Rotary experience, really seeing the projects that each of the clubs were working on, and seeing their presence in the community. There was not a community that we rolled through where we didn't see plaques and signs, and just knowing that they were there. In the upper right-hand corner, for instance, there's a Rotary-sponsored school. In the lower left-hand corner, there's a daycare. Susky is a kind of a community service place that caters to all ages. And when we were there at one location, they were teaching adults to read. So really felt the Rotary presence and got a better understanding and introduction to your organization.
And as Erin said, every day we became acquainted with some organization that Rotary had either helped out or was currently helping with. And knowing that you guys may always be looking for additional projects to get involved with or additional Rotary clubs to participate with, we wanted to share some of the open and ongoing projects that the clubs were working with down there. We can give you more information about any of these, but you can see, education, and I think it's a testament to the region that we were in, with the highest levels of education and lowest levels of illiteracy. Education was hugely important to most of the clubs that we went to, and you can see that continuing education aspect. We also went to an orphanage in Catanduas that had, I think, 11 children that it was working with, and they were all in a 4-bedroom house, including the adult caretakers that were staying with them. That was a very powerful day for us, getting to see the kids and interact with them and try to talk with them. Nora helped. So that facility, I think, really touched all of us. And then this last one is Gamba, which I know Erin has kept in touch with her host from Chapaco, and their club is very involved with this organization. which is about AIDS education and prevention, which is still a big problem in that country. So we really want to say thank you for the opportunity. It was an experience like none other, that we are forever changed, and we have ties and friends back in a country that is very much in the news right now, and I think that we all have a much better understanding of what that country is going through because of our time and our experience through this program. So thank you very much. If you want, we kept a blog throughout our month down there. The blog address is up at the top if you want to check it out. We've got pictures and some more detail of what we did every day. So if there are any questions, we're happy to answer or address them. Sure, yeah.
Well, I'm sure I speak for the whole club, but I think there was more than one firecracker on this crew here.
Nora?
And Nora, too.
I was the first one on the zip line. It's 2,100 feet downhill with a parachute behind you.
And seriously, yeah, I think all of us had done zipline before. We had never done zipline where they hook a parachute to your harness because you will pick up too much speed.
And Christopher, this is a shameless plug, but when you were dancing with that 3-year-old, were you doing a
Samba.
universal? No, that's not dancing.
Hokey pokey.
Larry wasn't with you.
Unfortunately, I did not teach them the hokey pokey. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Did you take the boat ride up to the Sioux Falls?
Did we take the what up to Sioux Falls? We did not. We unfortunately had a very finite amount of time that we could spend in the falls, and the group wanted to go to the bird park in the afternoon, which basically meant we would only be able to hike the falls and then do the bird park in the afternoon. We did not have time for the boat ride, but I've heard it's great, and I think all of us would love to go back and do it. Sure, Kay?
Karen or group, what would you say you brought back and can then either pay forward or change or do something different as a result of this experience?
And caipirinhas too.
Yes.
Yeah, brigadeiros and caipirinhas.
I mean, for me, when I got down there, I was expecting to be able to speak English easier because I had learned that it was obligatory in school. But it's sort of the same as in, high school where you may take some Spanish, but you don't practice it, you can't really have an in-depth conversation. But with the help of Karen, who speaks Spanish, and helped translate in Nora, I still found that there's a universal language of, it's in the food we ate and the dance that we danced. It's, there's other ways to connect and make bonds, and we all made good friends.
One of the other things that I learned, I guess you could say, throughout this whole process is that people still have the same values. They still have the same issues going on in their household. One of the blessings that we were able to encounter was that we stayed actually with the people in their homes. We got to speak to their sons, their daughters, their kids, their wives. So when you're sitting there at the kitchen table with someone, and even if you have a language barrier, you work through that, but you see the importance of family, you see the importance of education, of providing. Their values are a little bit different as far as how they view work. They work to live, they don't live to work like we do here in the United States. So they are very, very much hard workers, but they prize more of the family time. For instance, when it's lunchtime, everybody actually stops and they'll go home or they'll go to the buffets and they'll meet their kids and they will actually have lunch together. And then once it's over, either the kids will go back to school and the parents will go back to work. That's one of the values that is very important to them as far as keeping a community. One of the other things that was kind of surprising, at least for me, was the amount of immigrants that are actually down in Brazil. There's a huge Italian population and a huge Alemán or German population, as well as a nice-sized Japanese population. that's down there in Brazil that a lot of people don't really think of. When you think of Brazil, you think more of Amazonian or maybe indigenous people. So that was another thing that kind of took me by surprise while we were down.
And I think also, just to add to what both Chris and Aaron have said, having the opportunity to get so far outside of your comfort zone is a challenge that we don't do in a daily basis in our own rituals and norms. So really having an opportunity to test ourselves and learn more about ourselves, I think has shown us the much larger world, and also given me, and I think given us, a much larger cultural understanding as well.
Thank
I
you
think
so
we're getting
much.
the hook.